Good afternoon, Provost, Vice Provost, Deans, HODs, faculty, students, and fellow colleagues. A warm welcome to the Annual Academic Briefing 2013. I'm sure you are all waiting in anticipation of what Provost will be sharing with us, the milestones of this year, the plans for the coming academic year. After Provost's presentation, there will be a Q&A session for 15 minutes. Without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Srivastava on stage. Provost, please.
Okay, I'm really delighted with the number of people who've shown up. I was asking Howard, I was actually commenting to Howard Thomas that, gee, this is a great crowd. He said, yeah, Raj, it's probably because of the food. So I don't think that's true, but that's just Howard. Second is I feel kind of funny standing here in a suit, and so I'm probably going to take it off. But there's a story behind the suit. One of the things I like to teach is innovation, and I've made comments about something Henry Ford said 100 years ago, that you can have any color car you want as long as it's black. And the reason was that his innovation was the assembly line, and the black paint is the paint that dries the fastest. And since he wanted the cars to keep moving, he wanted black paint so they would absorb heat, and the car would keep moving. The assembly line would keep moving. So when I come to Singapore, I was amazed at the number of women who wear black. And it didn't make any sense because it's so hot out here. People should be wearing white. It should reflect heat. So where's Shelby hiding? So I asked Shelby, I said, why do women wear black? She started laughing. And she said, you don't understand anything, do you? So it turns out that I guess if you wear black, you look slimmer. Huh? I tried it with my cardiologist, and he said it wouldn't work. So with that, let me get along. I'm delighted we have some students here. We have faculty. We have a lot of staff members here also. So this is a great blend of the SMU community. And I'm going to run through, frankly, there's too much information on the slide, so I'd rather save as much time as possible for the Q&A. And so I'll be covering 5 topics, starting with the undergraduate program, and then I want to spend a bit of time, I guess to the screen here, a bit of time on looking at the faculty portfolio. We need to fine-tune our hiring a little bit. We'll talk about postgraduate professional programs and executive development, and followed that up with a topic that's near and dear to faculty, which is research programs and PhD programs. And then finally, just a few minutes on what we've been able to achieve on the international front and how we may be able to shift things a little bit at that end. So first about the undergraduate program. And we have some students here. Where are they? Okay. So, well, I think you guys would like to have some advance notice of what's going on. We started a review process about a year ago. And one of the difficulties was that we actually have a pretty decent program. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't improve. And so we'll be talking about number one, what do we really need to do to maintain differentiation? Because NUS and NTU have been copying a lot of what we've been doing. And for example, in their communications, they've been talking about the fact that they also have double majors. They're talking about the fact that they have a larger number of electives. But the key issue really is how are we integrating them? How are we sort of presenting them and using them in the way we prepare people for the market. So if you look at, for example, things like double degrees and double majors, now every university is beginning to talk about the T-shaped learning environment, which is the breadth being the top of the T and the depth being the stem of the T. Well, the reality is that at SMU, because we have a 4-year program, several students, about 75% of the students, are actually able to do double majors. So while in theory you can do a double major at NUS, for example, but how do you do it in 3 years? And so, that is the issue. Same thing with the number of electives. You can have a large number of electives because you have a larger university, but the amount of time that is available in the program to take electives outside your discipline is kind of limited. So when we look at what we have been doing at SMU, we've focused on interactive learning, but we've also had other things going on, such as the community service requirement. We have the ATR requirement, but I'm told that we're averaging over 110 hours per student. And so that's almost 40% over what is required on an average. And these are some of the things that have led to a great degree of differentiation. Now, what do we do going forward that may be a little bit different? All of you are aware that we are trying for 100% global exposure. We were at about 81%, and I think this year we have crept up to 85%. But the goal is really to get to 100%. We could do probably a better job in aligning what we do in the classroom with experiential learning. A very good example is the international trading track, where we have very good participation, very good collaboration with the trading community. And if we can start blending what we do in the classroom with what is available, which is uniquely Singaporean, which is also preparing people for the opportunities that are there. So that's something we can try. We are looking, we haven't gotten very far, but we're looking at things like blended learning. How can we integrate experiential learning with in-class learning with some online synchronous and asynchronous learning? Now, these kinds of things are going to take a little bit of while getting off the ground, and we'll do some experimentation in the postgraduate programs, but also in the undergraduate program. And finally, we have to start exploring perhaps minors, perhaps second majors, and I'm delighted to note that we have already started a university-wide second major in analytics. And when I've when I've brought that subject up with the people in the employer community, they're delighted. A finance major who happens to have analytical training is a really, really good combination. But it's not just finance. It's even if you're looking at School of Social Sciences and the exposure to analytical training in social networks and things like this. This is very, very important to the community. So I've been telling the community, the business community, that instead of a T-shaped function, we really have a pi-shaped function for the Greek letter pi. And that is actually creating the ability of our students to be more flexible. It's also allowing them to be able to adjust in life as things go along, because we're facing a fair amount of uncertainty in the environment. So the steering committee worked with the schools, and we've come up with some adjustments. We haven't really turned the common part of the program upside down because, frankly, most of it was working quite well. So in terms of foundation courses, they stay at 3 foundation courses. We've taken the 2 global and regional studies, and we've made it into a cluster requirement. So you could take one course coming out of the globalization cluster and one course coming out of the Asian studies cluster. Now, so instead of being forced to take that one common course, we're going to create 4 or 5 courses, and from that, you'll have the flexibility of choosing. Now, it's going to take a while to prepare, so the launch date is really 2015. And so we're giving ourselves about a year and a half to get a house in order to get the options in place. The university core, we're reducing it from 6 to 4, but we're not actually reducing it because we've shifted things around. We still are staying at total of 16. And so as an example, we're making a technology cluster and an entrepreneurship cluster. And one of the courses that we're adding is a half-credit course on managing volatility, uncertainty, change, and ambiguity. And this is really to deal with the constant change in the environment. When I was in school, people often stayed at the same kind of job for their entire career, maybe 2. But with the rate of change in technology, rate of change in the commercial world as well, that is related to technology, the students are going to be going through maybe 5, 6, 7 careers by the time you're done with your 30 to 40 years of working in the environment. One final thing in terms of general education, we've created some flexibility, and the students have been asking for, can we get one or two courses for pass-fail? We're going to try to accommodate that out there. So I see some smiles out there, and we've had some input from the students that has led to these things. All right, in terms of what we do at the school in terms of majors, the business school is going to push forward with a capstone course that they're working on that will also build in management of uncertainty. Accountancy is developing an Accountancy Plus strategy. Economics is introducing a Maritime Economics concentration, MEC. And SIS has been working very, very hard on the business analytics major. SOL is looking at greater depth in terms of number of electives. We suffer relative to NUS in terms of number of elective, and that's what meant by depth out there. And SOS has come up with public policy and management as well as the arts and culture major. So these are some of the recommendations that came out of the schools. The roadmap is that we will take a couple of years to develop these courses, and we'll be able to launch the changes in August 2015. OSL has been working very hard in the learning that you get outside the classroom in terms of life lessons. And the idea is to organize the thinking from year one, where you're focusing more on self-awareness, to year two, where you're looking at self-awareness plus teamwork. In year three, you're reaching out into the larger community. And in the fourth year, it's really about facilitation and coaching as well. So OSL has done a pretty good job on this, and we hope to roll this out pretty soon. In terms of space, we know that you guys don't go home, you live in the library. And the SMU Student Association survey said your favorite place to hang around is the library. And so we are going to go through a little bit of a library revamp to increase the space that's available. And we'll also create a segment in the library that's going to be available 24 hours. It'll be just on the second floor, so it's not the whole library. But for those of you who don't really want to go home, we'll try to accommodate that. Internship trends, the career services is working very hard. The outcomes have been positive. The average starting salary, is up marginally, but it's getting to be a little bit, tougher environment. And we will be taking a closer look in terms of what do we do in terms of looking at your long-term careers. So far, we've focused on when you graduate. We want to start talking with people who've been out 4 or 5 years and use that feedback to see what adjustments we can make. The quality of intake is pretty much what it has been. Our intake has been about 1925. Arno and I were at MOE yesterday with strategic planning people as well. We've been advised that because of SIT and SIM, so on, coming into the play, that our intake is going to be reduced marginally. We are not going to grow in terms of quantity, so we will have to grow in quality. And the other growth is going to have to come from postgraduate programs. Faculty portfolio. About 6 months ago, I was making a presentation to the Board of Trustees about how well my colleagues in the PGP programs were doing and how well SMU Executive Development was beginning to pick up speed. And so after my presentation, my colleagues from finance, Keen Teng sitting here, she walks up and starts talking about how we didn't consume our budget. And we had a bit of a surplus. So the immediate question from the board was, why did we not spend the money? And the answer was that we were not able to find enough faculty, enough new faculty, and that was the reason for the surplus. Then some other board member pipes in, oh, Raj, so you're going to grow the postgraduate programs, you're going to grow executive development, and you can't hire faculty? 3 months from now, when we meet in May, we want a report as to what you're going to do about that problem. And then 6 months from then, we want to know what you have achieved. So this is how we started out. And as you can see, we were kind of stagnant for a while. For 2 years, we were stuck at 289. It's not that we didn't hire anybody. We hired about 20 people, but 20 left. And then we edged our way up to 297, and this year by April, after that February meeting, we had made it up to 306, and now we've made it to 328. So thank God I've got my job for another year now. So we've made some progress, but when we look at the number that we hired, most of them were what I would call rookies, junior faculty coming in. It's really, really tough to get people who are senior to move because they got children in school and all kinds of reasons why they can't move. But that is what we need in effect, because if we're going to be pushing forward with research centers and postgraduate programs and executive teaching, we really need some seasoned people and also people who can connect the dots across disciplines. So that has led to a faculty portfolio analysis that we are doing. It's led by Vice Provost Francisco. And we want to look at the teaching requirements across the programs and also the requirements for leadership roles in our areas of excellence and so on. So that portfolio assessment is being made. And we started with the business school, and the Office of Strategic Planning helped us. And what we did was we looked at anybody who had come to NUS, NTU, HKUST, SEEBS, ISB. If in the past 3 or 4 years, if there was a senior faculty member who had visited these places, even for 3 days, for a seminar, we figured there must be some interest that they had in Asia. So we built up a list of over 300 people, to which the faculty added their nominations. So it grew up to closer to 400. And then we scoped it down to about 40 people whom we have been approaching. And I'm delighted to say that we've hired a few people from that process already. But it's really like finding needles in the haystack. But we've got a good team working at it, and all the other faculty. I mean, it's a team effort. Postgraduate programs. It's a rather dense chart, but for the PGP programs, about 3 years ago, we were at about 300. And as you can see, we are at 834 now. This is quite an appreciable rate of increase. And just over last year, when we were at 571, that is close to it's over a 50% increase in the postgraduate professional programs. We're also delighted to report that one of our programs is finally ranked number 2 globally by Financial Times, and this is the Wealth Management Program. And where's Francis? All right, so you should stand up and take a bow. And you would not imagine the amount of lift, what in marketing we would call a halo effect. A single program can provide. About 2 weeks ago, Sir King from finance, myself, and we took along some people from Temasek Foundation, DBS, and from Singapore Stock Exchange. We were hosting with the Bombay Stock Exchange. We were co-hosting a program on financial strategies, for mid-size companies. And of course, I wasn't going to go all the way to Mumbai and not say anything. So when I had an opportunity, I slipped in the fact that we had a globally ranked program. And the number of people who came to us after the program was just tremendous. So what I've discovered is that rather than having information sessions, if we can use a workshop or conference kind of approach to market what we are good at doing, and so for that, it allows us to use those areas the programs that we have a unique position. And our MITB program, nobody else in the world has an MIT. Well, I'm sure they do, but nobody else in this part of the world has an MITB program, and that sort of creates something very unique. Another thing that we're finding out, I know I'm bleeding into my last section, but while I'm at it, I may as well cover this issue. When we talk to companies in Asia, what we are finding is that some of the things that they have to deal with are very different compared to, let's say, in North America, where all the academic literature is coming from. And the issues that they have to deal with, one issue that keeps coming up all the time is cross-border management. Managing in Korea is very different from Philippines, and that's very different from Bangladesh. So if that kind of content we can build into a strategy course, into a marketing course, into a finance courses, that will give us some level of insight and differentiation where we can truly say that, look, SMU has unique insights, unique research and educational insights, and therefore we are the place to be. Challenges. The challenges are, Phil tells me that the economy is getting rough. For example, he used to get quite a few students, postgraduate students from India, and with the Indian rupee going down the tube, it's gotten a bit difficult for him. There's some people who were joining our programs who've asked for deferrals because of that. The other challenges are, of course, competition. Anybody and everybody thinks that Singapore is the place to hang around, and IMD is coming, and other schools are coming. We also need to coordinate across programs. At the moment, there's very little linkage between the programs, but program X can provide electives to program Y, that sort of thinking. Faculty availability is a challenge. Space is a challenge. And then finally, career services. How do you place a student out of China in China? We don't have an office in Shanghai. We don't have an office in Beijing. So we got to figure out new approaches in which we go about doing that. SMU Executive Development, we were going on at a steady, but slow but steady rate in terms of increases. And Steve Wyatt came in and he gave himself the option of growing faster, but he didn't have much of a team. When he came on board, he had 3 people with a combined experience of less than 2 years in the executive development team. So we've rectified that. He's grown the team, but of course we are blending it in. And we also had a situation where about 4 or 5 faculty provided over 50% of the teaching. So we have to increase the faculty pool in exec development. So we're happy to report that recently he's picked up the rate. We've gone up from about $5 million a year in executive development to 7 to, I think, we've got back orders, so we'll be 8 for sure in spring. So it's not bad to get a 50 or 60% growth, and that's when we are shorthanded. We do have some challenges in business development and developing the organization and so on, but that's why we pay Steve for working 12 hours a day, and at least. All right. Our faculty participation rate is up. We now have 49 faculty members involved in some way or the other in executive development, so we've made some progress on that. And I'll be talking later about faculty development programs for executive kind of teaching. When we had this talk last year, I pointed out the need for the development of Center for Management Practice. The idea was that we do research to create the differentiation and the unique knowledge, which we then take it into our postgraduate professional programs and also the undergraduate. But then we modularize, encapsulate that knowledge into smaller half-day, one-day kind of bites, if you will. And through modularization, we bring them in executive development. And that then generates resources. The problem was that there was a little bit of a barrier between those two. So we felt that putting in a Center for Management Practice will help in the translation of fundamental research into applied research. And so we've implemented that center. It's being run by Phil Zarello. And so that center has 3 pillars. One pillar is skill enhancement, faculty development. Another is developing a network of collaborators. So we work, just as we talk about in strategy, the need for an ecosystem, how Google can't win on its own. So, what is going to be our ecosystem, if you will, and then also applied in translational research. How can we translate our fundamental research finding into case studies, into op-ed articles, and so on. So for faculty members, if you find my office or corporate communications bothering you to write an article for Straits Times or Business Times, we would really appreciate your help. All of us have something or the other that we're passionate about. And if each of us could write one applied translational article on what we're passionate about, I think comms would be very happy. And Leila, thank you for smiling. All right. So what we've been doing in terms of skill enhancement, if you will, it's a lot of learning by doing. And we have a variety of programs in place. A few months ago, we had somebody called Bernie Jaworski here, and he was previously from the Monitor Group. And we had a wonderful learning experience, and it was very well attended. We had almost 30 faculty members that were involved in that. We now have programs that I have attended this one on media relations, and we had a trainer, come in from Channel News Asia. I wasn't aware of these programs for British Council on using your voice for impact and presenting yourself professionally. And in about a month from now, we have a program on coaching. How do you coach senior managers? How can you lead a team in the corporate sector? And I'm delighted to know that even very, very senior people have signed up. Harvard has signed up. And if I had time, and for the next round we do it, I'd like to sign up for something like this. All right, stakeholder collaboration. We have a unique program that will be announced. Phil, am I supposed to say anything about it? I've said it now, okay. Phil came up with the idea of a Warriors program that we would give 20 scholarships to senior people in the armed services. And we have some spare capacity in some of our programs, so we'll spread them across the programs. But it's a real contribution that we can make to the Singapore community, and it is also something that really stands out. So we're doing that. We are partnering with multiple universities to launch a certificate of management education. The case writing will provide more details in a minute. We've been running them not only at SMU and in Singapore, but also in KL, Manila, so on and so forth. And so there's a fair amount of collaboration going on. And in terms of cases, in the last 18 months, we've written 70 cases with another 50 or 60 in the pipeline. And each of these cases has a case note. And moving forward, we'd like to align more cases to our areas of excellence, such as innovation, the financial markets, and so on, so we can build a further IP out there. In terms of applied industry outreach, this morning, I just came back from delivering a talk at the Singapore Manufacturers Federation. The more we reach out, the more the community learns about us, and the better is going to be our opportunity to grow. All right. We have a stress management program in finance. Should be for Barclays or somebody. So in terms of faculty development, and this is something the Board of Trustees has been asking us to comment on to do something about for a long time. And so we've come up, actually accidentally, this looks very planned and so on, but it wasn't really that well planned. We already had a very good Center for Teaching Excellence, and we were doing mentorship programs and so on, and that has been a very effective center for a long time. And then we started doing some things under the Center for Management Practice, and additionally, this year we've made great strides in terms of faculty development, in terms of writing research proposals, and so on and so forth. And when we blend all these things together, along with the work that's done by HR and by the alumni office, what we are seeing is that we have a fairly complete menu of things that are available for faculty development. It lines up very well, if you will, with our 3 tracks: the research track, the education track, and the practice track. But it's come out very well, but it wasn't planned that way. I'm glad it looks so good. All right, in terms of research strategy, Steve, I've stolen quite a few of your charts. And so this is from a presentation, some of them are from a presentation made yesterday at the Council of Deans. And so first, a little bit of celebration. According to the University of Texas at Dallas ranking website, we are now, LKCSB is ranked number 3 in Asia, behind HKUST and NUS. But when we start looking at specific disciplines, in strategy, finance, and marketing, we're number 2. So we've kind of crept ahead of NUS on that dimension. And this is, of course, the rankings keep changing every quarter, if you will, as new publications come out. But we're doing rather well on that front. In terms of Tier 2 grants, we've had a few successful Tier 2 grants. We have one Tier 3 grant that's in the works on healthcare delivery, and it's on the impact of aging. And then we are working on applied research with Tata Consultancy Services and so on and so forth. The research output is about 2,000 publications over a 3-year window. The citations count, of course, will go up as we grow older. That's a no-brainer. And so we seem to be doing okay. But, and if we look at our impact factor, this is information provided to me by the library. And if you have any questions about definition of impact and so on, Gulchan is here So, but as you can see, when it comes to business and finance kind of subjects, the dark line is us. This is NTU, and the blue line is NUS. So we're moving ahead, if you will, at a fairly steady rate. Same thing when it comes to psychology. Again, with the black line, and we're kind of going toe-to-toe, head-to-head, whatever, with the University of Arizona. We've sort of crept ahead of the other 2 local universities. In economics, we are in the middle. Out here, we have, again, Minnesota and Arizona. We didn't have enough time to benchmark, HKUST and so on, but we'll do a more thorough analysis. And for information systems, SIS has gone ahead, even of fairly well-established school. University of Minnesota is no slouch, and University of Arizona is not a slouch either. And so the SIS in particular has done very, very well. We didn't have a chance to look at all these segments, but this is indeed good news. So if that is the good news, what's the bad news? The bad news is that we are struggling, if you will, in terms of getting additional funds. Faculty, of course, want to do more research, buy more databases, et cetera. But when it comes to the perception that MOE has and other agencies like NRF, I'm afraid we don't even show up on the radar screen. About a week ago, I filled in for Arno to the NRF board meeting, and I was literally embarrassed to be sitting on the same table in terms of the attention that we were getting relative to NUS and NTU, and even Republic Polytechnic and so on. So we have to wake up as a group and start reaching out to research that is funded by outside agencies. It's just not enough to keep working on internal funding. And so this is across the board. If we look at for example, the funding for the PhD programs, MOE funds us enough to cover about 60 students. We already have 120 PhD students. So when we add any additional PhD students, they are going to be coming out of reserves that could be spent on other programs. And so it's absolutely important for faculty to start linking the PhD programs to external opportunities and applying. The money is there. I talked to the deputy secretary at MOE, and he said, there is money for social sciences, it's just that nobody's applying for it. And so even NUS and NTU are not applying enough, but we are largely absent. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to continue, of course, with the funding. And the internal grants that we have largely cover things like data collection, research assistance, and so on. And to some extent, they cover the cost of the second research nights. But if we want to scale up our research centers, if you want to scale up our PhD programs, and if you want to scale up faculty funding, we have to reach out a little bit more. The Office of Research is really recommending that we take care of junior people to provide the seed money to get the research processes moving. But ultimately, we want faculty to start using the seed money to generate a track record, and that we can reach out and get external funding. Our Tier 2 participation is not good at all. And that kind of participation is actually having a negative halo effect, because the sense that we get from external funding agency is that if your faculty are not applying, you must not need the money. Either that or you must not be good enough. And so there's a tendency to allocate, for example, funding for the PhD programs based on perceived faculty competence. I don't mean to be so negative, because starting out, we are publishing in the top journals, we are creeping ahead, but people are not getting the message, and in part, we are not getting the message either. And they're saying that, look, if you apply for Tier 2 grants, if you apply for Tier 3 grants, then we will be in a better position to support your request for funding for doctoral students. Okay. So external funding matters. And so when it comes to, especially for senior faculty, we're looking at promotions, even for merit raises and so on. We will be, in the future, looking at the willingness and the ability of senior faculty to go out and get research grants. We are making some progress in terms of aligning the research efforts to multiple programs. It is critical that we align the PhD programs to research centers, faculty to research centers. So that is going to be an ongoing process. We're trying to get better communication between members of the research council that include all the deans, but also to start having a conversation with associate deans for research, as well as the PhD program directors. So the key is that research continues just beyond publishing. So once I finish publishing a paper in a journal, that should not be the end of that particular chain of research. We need to make sure we make some progress, for getting it implemented. Just to give you a sense, last year we spent about $11 million to support research, and this year projected is $14.5 million, and much of this is going to go in Tier 1 grants, but also it's going to go into the research centers, and this is. I'm encouraging, or not I, we are encouraging everybody to link to the research centers. See, we will be holding a retreat on the topic of research, where all the academic and administrative heads of the research centers will be invited, and we are covering a broad range of topics, including things like space. The 9th floor is pretty much packed. We are running out of space in schools. As an example, SKBI, which is currently in economics, is facing pressure because they've hired faculty. And so SKBI needs to move someplace. And so these are pressures that we're finding, so we will work together as a community to try to resolve these problems. But the agenda is going to cover how are the centers aligned to the areas of excellence, issues related to governance, issues related to budgeting, program processes. So we want the faculty and the research center directors to be involved in that. All right, moving to areas of excellence. We've made great strides in analytics for business and consumer and social insights. SIS has been anchoring it through LARC and through live labs. But as you can see, there's scope for participation across the 6 schools. We have undergraduate programs, for example, the new second major in analytics. We have postgraduate programs led by MITB, and we also have PhD programs in information systems and marketing and operations that could be linked to LARC. In addition, we have outreach efforts where Live Labs is working with places like Visa and MasterCard and StarHub. We're also working with TCS, with the ICT initiative. So there's a lot of activity, if you will, in this particular area of excellence. Similarly, when it comes to finance and financial markets, we have a fair bit of activity going on. But unlike the analytics area of excellence, we need further integration. But by and large, enough progress is being made. New areas emerging in aging and healthcare. And we've submitted a Tier 3 grant, which has passed the first hurdle. And this, again, is going to help us develop a cross-functional team. A fourth area, which is where I have been a little bit more involved, is linked to innovation. And out there, really what we're trying to do is to link our educational programs, such as the Masters of Innovation or the Entrepreneurship and Technopreneurship programs. We're looking at a possible doctorate in management practice and innovation. And we have a variety of activities going on, such as the LKY business plan competition and so on. In terms of research, we are looking at some key topics. A big issue is that in Singapore, there's enough attention, actually a lot of attention, paid to innovation driven by science, technology, and engineering. It is often referred to as upstream innovation. But when we bring those innovations downstream into the market, there's not enough of that taking place. So one of the things that we have to worry about is to do a study to show what is the impact of downstream and midstream innovation. So this is just an example that we have to start doing research that will help us get some attention. And then, again, we're linking into practice and outreach through case studies, roundtables, et cetera. DESI put together something called the iClub, and you have 18 members now. So these are 18 chief innovation officers from companies as varied as MasterCard and Johnson & Johnson and Procter & Gamble. And the whole idea is how can we use this club to, for example, to provide internships to our students. Also, how can we use this club to start sourcing case studies? How can we use this club to bring chief innovation officers into the classroom? And so several of them actually are quite interested in teaching. So what we're doing is this kind of integration, if you will, and the iClub is going to help us provide the glue to integrate research, education, and practice. We are reaching out internally across the institutes, and we are reaching out to industry, and these are the companies that are working with us so far. It's not updated, but includes Nestle, DuPont, Abbott Labs, and so on. But we're also reaching out externally to the Wharton, to the Mack Center for Technological Innovation at Wharton, to the Global Innovation Center at University of Southern California, and so on. So the idea is to create a network where we can benefit from faculty and companies that are associated with them. Tier 3 grant, we are hoping this comes through and this will provide funding for PhDs. We need to grow our PhDs from roughly 120, 130 to somewhere between 200 to 240, about one for every tenure track faculty member. And so we need the Tier 3 grants to be able to do that. Lastly, international strategy, just a very, very quick summary. In China, we've been approved by the government to be included in the list of universities that are approved for Chinese PhD students to go to. So Arno got this done about 2 weeks ago. And basically what it means is that in the past, if a Chinese student wanted to do PhD here, they had to come either under our stream or their own stream, but now the Chinese government will subsidize it. So that's a big step. We are pursuing MOUs with Tsinghua and Shanghai Jiaotong and so on and so forth. And we have a letter of agreement led by ISIS that is related to training in the services sector in Pudong. And finally, we've always had this MSc in applied finance at Xiamen, but now we also have a MSc in financial economics. On the India front, we are working with IIT Kanpur on a joint master's program in innovation. We are working with IIM Bangalore on wealth management, IIM Lucknow on public-private partnerships, with Indian Institute of Foreign Trade on B2B marketing and trade, and with the Bombay Stock Exchange on financial strategies and for company directors. We're also working with other companies. Now, what we need to expand, of course, is start working in ASEAN. And we have made initial forays out there. And next year when I report, we will have some concrete results.
My concern is slightly different. Although MOE says there's a lot of funding for social science research, etc., I really do not know how serious they are in funding social science research. I've had ongoing battle with NRF where even IT is not considered to be good enough. You have to have proposals which result in tangible touch and feel kind of material. Otherwise, they're not interested. And the most we have close to our science or engineering is the IS school. Even there, we have a lot of challenges. So I think this requires a significant lobbying at the highest possible levels in order to educate people, including ministers, to say it's not always creation of deep technologies that are really going to result in increased economic performance for the nation, but the ability to take some of these and translate them into, monetize them and translate them into economic outcomes and also value capture that is much more important. I've been trying to do that in bits and pieces. I wonder whether it might be worthwhile for SMU to organize a roundtable, get some serious senior policymakers and ministers, and get them all to understand. Microsoft came up not because of deep technology, because somebody was able to just look at the opportunity and address the opportunity, things like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that is the reason why this particular topic, global study on upstream and downstream and midstream, impact of innovation is critical. The government here does a very good job of benchmarking technical institutes in Switzerland and Germany and Finland and so on. But they are not looking at the fact that Microsoft was actually growing significantly with the help of government funds, and actually so did Nokia in Finland.
Just as a follow on, if you look at the recent rankings of different nations in innovation, Singapore fell from 3rd to, I believe, 8th or something like that. And the area where they were doing extremely well is what they call innovation inputs, where we are putting money into the creation of intellectual property. Where they suffered most was the innovation output, where how do you monetize this and how do you get value out of this? I think the government is probably now looking for solutions. It's a good time to get some of the top people into a room and tell them how SMU can help. Maybe an opportunity, and since they are desperate?
I very much agree with the comment that Desai has made, that it is up to us to sell the notion that knowledge about going to market, about business model innovation is just as critical as coming up with the original patent. So you're not going to extract as much value out of that science and technology unless you actually look at downstream innovation. So we do need to put up look at it in multiple forums, as you're suggesting. But if you might recall this, that 2 years ago we submitted a Tier 3 grant which passed the initial hurdle, but that grant was a little too fragmented, and it wasn't as coherent and sharp as it should be, and it also needs people to be involved. So let's work at a team to do that, and this is on the government side. When I talk to the corporate community, if we came up with a capital topic in translation and applied research like cross-border management, that will draw a similar note of attention from the corporate community. Okay? So usually when people suggest something, it means they want to do it, right? Others? Levin?
Yeah, hi. I have a question about the applied research that you talked about within the Center of Management Practice. Mm-hmm. The idea that we have some theoretical publications, but then how do we kind of maybe try to implement them in practice and then see if we can learn something from that. So my broader question would be how do we do that? And then I want to just share one idea that I have, which is a program that we're developing. It's an additional MBA program where we would have a strong project-based learning component, where we would try to invite faculty with ideas for implementation of their theories to work with these MBA students and companies to try to implement something. And that would be kind of a one-year project with potentially an outcome of an applied research publication. So if any of the faculty members or if you have company contacts that might be interested in this, please let me know. But my broader question would be, how can we do this?
Just for the broader audience, the program that Levin is talking about is an MBA program in blended learning in collaboration with Instituto Empresa from Madrid. They are one of the top European EMBA programs. And so they have a program in collaboration with North America with Brown University, and they're looking for an Asian partner. And so this is potentially a very good program. It also allows us to use this as a platform to learn blended learning. But the question always becomes, we don't want to go in the long run as a second fiddle, if you will. And so we have to have some of our own content, which we do, but it would be very, very useful to develop some key topics. And I hate to sound like a broken record, especially when people don't understand what broken records are, unless you're my age. Or scratch records, which go and say the same thing all the time. But a good example, based on my talking with Asian corporates, is coming back to managing across borders. Another issue that I keep running into is they want courses that will teach finance and accounting-oriented people strategy. So, in the corporate community, accounting and finance people are often very technical, but when you're managing in an MNC environment, you need to have, the CFO needs to be as knowledgeable in strategy as a CSO, Chief Strategy Officer. So they want that skill to be built in. So if we start listening to people as to what they want, and then we look at this applied research. Now, in my mind, Levin, I don't necessarily separate rigor from relevance. And it is possible to take real meaty problems and attack them with all the rigor that we can. And so just as we could be translating a problem into research, we could also be translating research into strategies. But your second part of the question is, how do we do this? Why don't we start taking targeted topics? Your program can come up with 2 or 3 targeted topics that will help differentiate, let's say, SMU from Brown. And let's fund those. Okay, so I think if you work with the faculty and come up with the topics, we'll find the money.
So please come talk to me.
I know both Arnold and you have been talking about promoting multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary research. I just want to share with the people here that in a recent effort, a proposal we submitted to SIPI, which may or may not come through, I was very delighted to see 3 professors from School of Business and 2 professors from School of Accountancy respond to my call. I thought I should share the positive spirit of collaboration with the rest of the group here. Let's keep our fingers crossed and maybe we'll get the project funded, but at least the spirit of collaboration is beginning to kick in and start happening. Yeah?
So this was the one with Singapore manufacturers? Yes. Yeah, so this is the same group I went to talk to this morning. And so again, if we keep hitting at the same point, then our credibility increases. And I think the more we interact with them, the greater the knowledge they'll have about SMU, and the greater the level of trust they'll have in our capabilities. Yeah. Other people? Last chance. Yes.
Provost, you probably have heard this before, so right now I probably sound like a broken record to you. What do you think vis-a-vis faculty hiring? Would it be a boost if we have a Nobel laureate as a faculty member?
I am all for Nobel laureates. I'm also all for people who are really, I'm searching for a proper word, but maybe I should give an example. I was a PhD student at the University of Pittsburgh, and yeah, life was going along, and I was probably playing more bridge than doing research work. And then a fellow called Gerald Zaltman showed up, and Jerry is now an emeritus professor at Harvard. But when he came in, he somehow, became a little bit of a magnet for junior faculty, for doctoral students, and all of a sudden, the environment changed. So it is not so much whether somebody is a Nobel, I'm sure a Nobel laureate would be a magnet, but there are some people who work with closed doors. There's some people who work in a community. And I think SMU would be very, very open to those people who will be the magnet around which programs will be developed, as opposed to, excuse me, as opposed to an individual who might work by himself or herself. So if you have some suggestions and if you can afford them. No, it's not that much of a surplus, but I'm sure Bryce can twist my arm. Thank you so much for coming, and I'm really, really delighted with the turnout. We have some big challenges ahead of us, but we have also been making very rapid strides, and we are producing the research. We just need to make sure that we up the game a little bit, and our academic programs, professional programs have made a good start. The undergraduate program was always good. And as we reach out into the region, I'm pretty confident that SMU can play a bit of a leadership role. I see Ruth nodding her head because she's one of these people who's out there in the field, stirring up all kinds of contacts for us. So again, thank you so much, and I look forward to working with you guys. Take care.